You have Dougie P now leading the way. He is a former Super Bowl winner. We all know that. How do you think, or who do you think will benefit the most from this in terms of fantasy?
It's Trevor Lawrence, man. I mean, look, what does Doug Pederson do? What did Doug Pederson do in his previous NFL life? He was a quarterback. He helps quarterbacks. Carson Wentz, 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, into a year with 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Under Doug Pederson, he made Nick Foles look like Joe Montana in the playoffs. He helped Jalen Hurts hit the ground running. Look, Doug Pederson will play into Trevor Lawrence's strengths. I think this is a very good hire for a team that has a young quarterback with lots of with a big skill set. I think you'll see a little bit more designed running for Trevor Lawrence next year, and I think you'll see the better utilization of players like Laviska Shenault and DJ Chark over the middle. Let's not forget, Alshon Jeffrey was very productive as a big receiver in that Philly offense. I think it could also help Travis Etienne. Let's not forget, Darren Sproles caught 50 passes while he was like 35 under Doug Pederson. So I would look for whoever is starting at running back. It's probably going to be Etienne if he comes back healthy under Pederson. But I think this helps Trevor Lawrence a lot. I think you'll see him become more efficient, and I think you'll see just a better, well-designed offense around a quarterback with various skill sets.
Okay, maybe James Pederson will be used properly. Pearce, DJ Chark is there as well.
Not to be pedantic, but if we're talking about sports being a guaranteed right, I would say probably the Declaration of Independence would have been a better document to reference. But anyway.
Oh,
Trevor
my God,
Lawrence,
book guy, be quiet and just answer the question.
Trevor Lawrence is kind of the cop-out answer, but it's the best answer. If any of the players perform well, then it's all going to benefit Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, you have a quarterback-minded head coach, but it's year 2 for a young quarterback. He's going to develop. Hopefully they spend that first-round pick on getting an offensive lineman that will protect him. And if Robinson has a good season in the backfield, that's going to take some of the pressure off. That's going to get more guys in the box, having to stop the run. That's going to open up receivers, and that should benefit Lawrence. As far as the receiving core, we don't even really know what this receiving core is going to look like, what the turnover will be. I'm not a big DJ Chark guy just because I get tired of hearing the DJ Chark song over and over and over.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, someday you might find out what happens when you have a young child at home.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have 2 daughters, buddy. 2 daughters.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sure you're familiar with that. They love DJ Chark. Anyway, look, I don't think this team's going to be consistent. They're going to have big games. If anything goes well for them, it's going to be that it goes poorly for them, and they're constantly playing from behind, and Lawrence is passing more, and they get fantasy points that way. But I don't have much faith in them taking a big step forward consistently.
I bet you're punching air, Pearce, the fact that the Jags have better odds to win it than your Lions.
That's crazy. That's
Pearce is just salivating over the Lions with the value that he's getting with the Lions right now. He's just, he's finding extra coins under his couch. He's probably cashing in all his Bort coin right now. Like Bortles' early investment in that. So, yeah, very exciting for the Lions next year. Can't wait.
Pearce, let's go to Chicago here. How will the hire of defensive-minded Matt Eberflus impact Justin Fields' potential, like in your mind?
This is the biggest deal out of nothing. This idea that the head coach, if they're defensive-minded or offensive-minded, sways the team one way or the other. We've learned this lesson plenty of times before. The biggest example, and it's a huge sample size, is Brian Billick for the Ravens. Supposedly was one of the greatest offensive minds over the last 3 decades. And what did he do at Baltimore? He had one of the worst offenses every single season. He won Super Bowls through defense, but he was supposed to be an offensive guy. A head coach is a managerial position. They just make sure that the personnel are doing their jobs, morale is high, the team is motivated. They're not the innovators. They're not the creators. That's up to the coordinators. And what Justin Fields doesn't necessarily need is a coordinator or another coach. He needs an offensive line. The Bears have needed an offensive line for several years. Ask Mitch Trubisky. Ask Andy Dalton. It's not the coaching. It's the line. And, oh, by the way, they could also use some receivers too. Allen Robinson, not quite what he used to be. Darnell Mooney, not really the most dependable wide receiver. He doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't have a line. I don't care who the coach is.
All right, well, he did hire Packers passing game coordinator Luke Getsy to be his offensive coordinator, Geoff. So kind of familiar there with the division. But what does the offense need to look like for him to be successful?
So this will be probably the one thing we agree with, Pearce and I, on this one. I think that hiring offensive-minded coaches is actually starting to become like a very negative thing for your team. These coaches design their offenses, and they want the players to run their offenses for them. Matt Nagy was that guy. He was so adamant about having the right personnel to run his offense. He went out and got Andy Dalton and started him over Justin Fields. I love this hire of Matt Eberflus. I don't know how you pronounce it. Eberflus.
Yeah, it's Eberflus, I think.
This guy has said the exact right things. And you know what? You can just tell he has common sense. It's much like Brandon Staley in the Chargers. He had the common sense. I have Justin Herbert. I'm going to throw it 40 times a game. And that's what they did. And Matt Eberflus sounds like he's going to do the same thing. He says he wants chunk plays. Explosive athletic ability is the traits we're looking for, he says. That equals chunk plays on offense. You can't stop that on the opposing defense. If you have chunk plays, he says, I want to build my offense around Justin Fields. Look, he didn't hire Luke Getsy to do this fancy offensive coordinator thing where we're just going to pick and choose our quarterback. He hired Luke Getsy because this is a dude getting his first shot, and he's going to design the offense around the quarterback for Matt Eberflus. I don't know. I'm sorry. But look, I think this is a very positive hire for Justin Fields, and I'd be very excited if I was a Chicago Bear fan. He had a very, very efficient, good, scrappy defense in the Colts, and I think he's got the right mind. He's got common sense, which is like Pearce alluded to. That's what you need as a head coach. You're a manager. You're not the guy who designs all the plays and then tries to fit square pegs in round holes.
Yeah, and Getsy, like some say, oh, you could have stuck around Green Bay. You could have taken over the offensive coordinator position where Nathaniel Hackett left, and now he's leading the way in Denver. But we all know, like, Nathaniel Hackett wasn't even calling plays out there. That was Matt LaFleur, and now Hackett is leading the way in Denver, guys. Denver has the fourth best odds to win the AFC. Why do these feel too short, Geoff, for a team with its current quarterback one named Drew Lock?
Yeah, this is a great example of the exact opposite, of what we're talking about. Okay, we hired the fancy offensive coordinator from Green Bay. Like you said, he wasn't even calling plays. And now you're basically just diving in on the Broncos because there's a slight connection with Aaron Rodgers. The heavy connection with Aaron Rodgers in Denver was Shailene Woodley, and she's out of the picture as far as we know. So no, I don't like this at all. This is an offensive coordinator who's been built up by a solid Packers team that's been run by LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, and a budding defense over the last couple of years. And Nathaniel Hackett has just been like the guy just kind of riding shotgun, sitting in the back seat, looking out the window. I'm sure he's a great offensive play caller, but there's nothing here to say this is going to work out or this is going like a great hire. Well, this is just a complete wait and see, and there's no way you should be diving in on the Broncos and anything on the AFC odds right now.
Okay, Pearce, how much of this do you think is the chatter that Aaron Rodgers can make his way out there, the fact that Denver has the fourth best odds in the conference?
This is getting a little this coaching connection thing. We're drawing, connections to Rodgers once played for this guy. Now he's here. We're getting into Pepe Sylvie territory. I don't really like it. And I'm afraid that we're going to keep doing this for another week. I'm pretty sure Rodgers is staying put. He's not going anywhere. The Broncos are also going nowhere. Not with that team, not with that roster, not in that division. How are they? Even if they had Rodgers, they're still going to struggle with the Chiefs. The Chargers are getting better. I think the arrow is pointing upward for the Chargers. The sky is the limit. They might overcome the Chiefs as well. The Raiders dealt with all kinds of obstacles last season, all kinds of adversity, and they still made the playoffs. Where does that leave the Broncos? The Broncos with this roster, it's not happening. I look forward to another week of will Aaron Rodgers sign with the Broncos. It's going to be great.
All right, guys, we'll wrap up this NFL segment with this. Like, Giants fans are obviously hoping that Brian Daboll can have success right in New York with Daniel Jones, the same kind of success that he had back in Buffalo with Josh Allen. How soon, Pearce, could you see that happening? And maybe some wide receivers could benefit from that. That whole team was so banged up on offense last year.
Yeah, but who's to say they're going to be healthy again this year?
True.
They got injured over and over last season. Why would all of a sudden they would be healthy this season? And that's Jones included. Like, we played Daniel Jones a lot last season based on his rushing talent, but we never really were excited about his passing. We were never really excited about his receivers. We were never excited about his offensive line. We just thought that in a certain game script, he could run for yards and he could hit value. We didn't expect them to win games at all. And then I think we're making a little bit too much out of the offensive coordinator. We think that the offensive coordinator made Josh Allen a good quarterback. Well, what if it's the other way around, that Josh Allen made the offensive coordinator in Buffalo who he is? And I think that's probably the case. If you look at the Buffalo offense, if that offense was so great, why couldn't they run the ball? Like, if we're going to say, how does this guy get a job? Like, as an offensive coordinator, you have two jobs: pass the ball, run the ball. He couldn't even run the ball, so he was able to do one of his jobs. If that was a problem in Buffalo, I imagine it's probably going to be a problem in New York as well.
Hey, Geoff, could you see Daniel Jones taking a similar leap as Josh Allen?
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, are you kidding? Like, people compare Daniel Jones to Josh Allen. I mean, I don't want to say they don't watch the games, but like we're talking about two entirely different players. The only thing they have a little bit in common is they both have decent speed. But I mean, Josh Allen is essentially like, a Christian Okoye running outside the pocket, whereas Daniel Jones, sure, he gets a little treadway, he can outrun a couple people, but no, I mean, Daniel Jones has shown, like, I like his release. He gets rid of the ball quickly. He also makes some really poor decisions, and like Pearce mentioned, like, he just gets hit too much. Is Brian Daboll gonna just reinvent the offensive line? That's the bigger issue here. We talk about like things that the Giants need. I mean, that offensive line is not going to keep Daniel Jones upright. I don't care who the coach is or who the offensive coordinator is. There's already controversy around this hire too, just with the Brian Flores stuff. Like, this is just pure Giants in terms of how this has gone. Like, it's already off to a negative spin. You've got another offensive coordinator hire who's hired for, a couple being connected to like a group of good players, like Pearce alluded to, and Josh Allen, and now he's getting hyped up. Again, I mean, like, I think I actually prefer the Nathaniel Hackett hire in Denver over the Daboll one. At least Hackett was, producing some very consistent offenses. Like Pearce alluded to, the Bills had like one good offensive year under Daboll. I just don't see this one working out, quite frankly.